Hello friends, my name's Rocky Outcrop. This is Bitcoin Technical Analysis here, just giving you a summary of course, the daddy of the cryptocurrency markets. We're looking at the charts and we're saying that there is the potential for, a positive move in this at the minute, although the charts obviously look quite bearish. So we'll be keeping a keen eye on the key levels, and I'll explain all of those and all the detail that you need to understand the here and now, and of course, the next wee while for Bitcoin on the show. Thanks so much for joining me. Let's run the intro. So these are the charts, and this is what we're looking at here, the Bitcoin USDT chart. And I'll just be honest with you and tell you that was of course, just to attract your attention to it. I'm actually going to go up to a higher time frame, and we'll get back down to talk about smaller time frames or whatever if we need to in a minute. But just for now, what is the current scenario with Bitcoin? Well, we're looking at this area here and acknowledging that, of course, this is a lower high than the previous one. And then we look at the RSI, for example, we can see that the RSI came up higher than the previous high in the RSI. Well, the price action didn't. And of course, then looking at this with the high, the low, the lower high, the lower low, and then the lower high, that of course is hidden bearish divergence, and it's a bearish looking chart. Therefore, what's going on? Well, actually, as well, at the same time, there's very much bullish divergence on these two lows. So I'm looking at this as saying, well, can we capitalize off of any potential higher low that comes in? If we're looking at this and saying that this was a low, and then this was a lower high, and then this was a lower low, and this was a high, then it kind of separates it slightly from the previous lower high, because this is just the first of potentially a new sequence. So I'm looking to see, can we get a higher low at the minute? This has got broader term implications. So suppose, just to kind of satisfy the need for people, in terms of the lower term time frame, this again as well has got some sort of bearish aspects to it, but there is of course positivity overall here, should we not actually really take out the 50% area, going down past all the threes really there for us, 33,333. And then of course I feel like there's a very, very, very good chance of dropping down up to another 10%. Of course, if we do go beyond another 10% down, then I'm actually looking down towards 28 and then 25,000 in terms of potential bounce areas, with a keen eye towards 20,000 to see if there's a bounce there before continuing to cascade down, if that were to happen, right? But I'm not actually planning on that. What instead I'm looking towards is asking, can this not be a bear flag here on the 15-minute time frame? Can instead it actually just start to be a part of this upward trend? High, low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, and so on and so forth. And can we push up? We do have to acknowledge, of course, then in that sense, that there's that bearish divergence on the RSI. The DMI showing us very clearly that we're in chop territory. And then it's a question of, well, do we consolidate here for a while? And if we do consolidate here for a while and don't actually take out those lows, then jolly good, job's a good. In the fact that we didn't actually come up any higher than the previous highs on at this point here is kind of inconsequential, because indeed we're looking for that higher low. And then the question is, can we get in somewhere and get a decent move? There's 10% moves to be had very, very, very well. If you're looking for confirmation to push past a higher point, then really, and to create the momentum past a certain point to carry on up the way, then get in after 35.5, probably, to be honest, 35.555. Looking to take profit in at around 38,000 up towards 40,000 there, because of course we cannot trust our previous highs to be taken out. What we've seen out here is that we've had a dozen highs coming in, it feels like, lots of them, all lower, apart from just one area there that had of course in between a higher low. So that's why I'm looking at that and saying, can we get a higher low and then perhaps another higher high thereafter? Well, let's just kind of be patient on it. And where does this leave us? Well, the last couple of minutes of the show will kind of wrap up on the broader term analysis. We did push up high here towards 64,000 when we were up at the highs there in April, before dropping down. Now there's a lot of reasons for that in terms of what we already identified, and I'm really sorry to anybody that wasn't tuned into the channel back then and didn't see it, but snooze, you lose. Anyway, we came up towards 65, 64, 65 and pushed back down the way thereafter. And could that be that little phase there? Could that have been that little phase in a distribution phase in markets where you give everybody that hope that you can actually push on and and throw off the divergences, etc. before, and really just go on even higher and continue the parabolic move. And then, of course, actually, it's the final little bit of FOMO accumulation by retail in the face of the distribution from institutions, you know, and the likes of, say, Coinbase, who were doing an IPO in that phase and obviously wanted to sustain their own prices. So that there happening. Then the prices dropped, you know, by manipulating the Bitcoin markets, of course, you know, that sort of a thing. And then, of course, then we dropped on down, failing to take out that higher high. So this question is worth asking at this point here. When we put in this bullishly divergent extra low here in the recent past, when a lot of analysts out there were very positive about things. Now, not me personally, but a lot of people thought that maybe things were turning around there, and you can see in terms of the low, the high, the higher low, and then the thrust up the way, that there was a good deal of positivity, but just not enough to actually carry it on through, ultimately coming in for a lower low, bullishly divergent. Could that be the last high that we've got, like up here, that type of equivalent, or would we go on any lower? If it does turn out to be that way, then we could end up spending the next sort of 23 days almost in terms of like this period here consolidating sideways before we actually get to go up and down. Ideal case scenario for bulls is to see closures above 42, and then actually, you know, into the 50s, etc. Really, to be honest, you know, we can't really get fully positive on it until it's high 50s. But then here, in terms of the most positive case for the bears, is to not take out this other high here, this other high. Could that also be, in terms of distribution, be that hopium that injects into the market, gets painted on with these rises up in candles, because it looks very much like that as well, got painted on to then, of course, distribute that little bit more in that phase there. You can see it spent a whole day up in that price point, able to distribute out loads before, of course, cascading the market on down the way afterwards. So it's a battle between these two psychological pivots in the market for us over the next wee while, and this is demonstrated kind of, if you needed it to be any more clearly demonstrated to you, in terms of the DMI. Well, we're in a current positive stance at the minute. You can see with the ADX, there absolutely isn't a strength of trend. Likewise, you know, in terms of the negative strength of trend, it's kind of like hard to see that continuing with the massive amounts of bullish divergence. Although this is just a warning, this is a downward trend, and I'm very keenly aware of the support, because breaking them cascades towards the downside, because fear comes flying in very quickly into a market such as this. Thanks so much for being here. I'm going to be doing more of these clips during live streams. This is actually during a live stream at the minute, so if you're watching this now and you want to see more TA, I'll be doing stocks, mostly GME and AMC here today, and for this week and month, and for the next wee while probably. But you can come along, chat. I still do crypto all the time, I still do stocks and all that. It's always been the same show from the very start, to be honest with you, taking requests on anything, and I really do appreciate you being here. Shout out to like 3000 Trin and Peter Hewer, who asked for us to take a look at this, and yeah, and to everybody else that joins us on these episodes all the time. It's always massively appreciated. So be sure to do that, and if you can share the episode with your friend, that, you know, that'd be quality. If you can see up above my head here, there's Rocky_Outcrop. That's my Twitter handle. If you can join me for that, then that'd be awesome. And I guess just because people like the clip, I'll play the music one last time on the outro.